guys, Pat Gillis here, and today we have a little bit of a power outage. We had quite a storm come through last night, and it's just beautiful out here right now, but unfortunately, the power got knocked out, and so we have nothing going on in the barn. So what we ended up doing today was we had to go down to a neighbor's place, and when I say we, I should say the people that are very kind enough to work here and to do that for us, that they ran down the road and got water from a neighboring farm. But the problem with watering from a neighboring farm is the horses can sometimes be funny about that sort of thing. Like if it tastes a little bit different, it kind of puts them off the water a little bit. So far, it looks to us like everybody's had a pretty good drink tonight, so we're happy about that. I remember I used to work for someone who rode for the Canadian team, and sometimes what they would do is put a little bit of peppermint in the water a couple of weeks before an event, so that, you know, if you ship down to Kentucky or something from Ontario, the water would taste different, but the horses would still drink it. Because the last thing you want to have is a 3-day event horse getting to a show situation and deciding not to drink enough water. So that was always a little trick that they do, so the peppermint would make all the water taste the same, which was pretty good. But for us here, we don't do that kind of thing, but we do worry when our horses have to get water from the neighbors, so to speak, you know. And what got me thinking about today a little bit was how many times people will say that they'd like to have horses at home. And I understand the logic of that. You know, you have your horse at a boarding place, you think it would be so much easier if I just had my horses at home, I could see them all the time, it'd be great. One of the things you have to remember is that it gets kind of complicated when you have horses at home. First of all, if you only have one horse, you pretty much have to get a second horse because that horse will be lonely. And then when you have two horses, if you take the one horse away to ride, then the other horse is going to be lonely, so you almost have to get 3 horses or a donkey or something so that you can have that horse keep it company. But it's also, it just never ends, so to speak. So a friend of ours, she has a pet food store, and I was thinking to myself, well, if this happened to her, she could just lock the doors that day and say, you know what, we'll look after things tomorrow when the lights come back on. But unfortunately, with horses, livestock generally, I would guess, but with horses is all I know, and you know, everything still has to get done every day, regardless of whether you've got power or not. So it's sort of something to think about. Really what it makes me think about is that we have to get a generator so that when we have power outages like this, something can click on and at least we'll have water for the horses. So that's the big thing. But really it is something to think about, that when you have horses at home, you have to find people who will look after them if you're going to go away for the weekend. They're not like a cat where you can just leave a bowl of water out and things like that. So it's absolutely a joy to have them at home, but it is something you want to be aware of, that it's probably maybe a little bit more stressful or more work than we originally think when we are just kind of walking to the boarding barn where our horse is kept and thinking, wow, I could do this. This would be great. Anyway, most of the time it is great, but there's days like this where I do wonder sometimes. Anyway, it's all good. God bless the guys that go up in the lines in terrible weather like they were doing last night and trying to get the power going. You know, you got to give those guys a lot of credit. Boy, I wouldn't want to do it. You know, I've seen them do it in the cold winter too when we've lost the power. It's amazing. But it looks like we're not probably going to get it for at least tonight, maybe not till tomorrow. Who knows? But we'll see. Cross your fingers for us. Remember to thank your horse, and we'll talk to you next week.